I still remember the sound of that knock. Not loud, not urgent, just firm enough to say someone meant it. It was the kind of knock that didn't belong to delivery drivers or neighbors borrowing sugar. It belonged to consequences. I was standing in my kitchen, barefoot on cold tile, staring at a sink full of dishes I'd been avoiding all morning. The radio was playing something soft and old, one of those songs that makes you think you lived more life than you actually have. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and checked the clock. 9:12 a.m. Too early for drama, or so I thought. When I opened the door, the porch was empty, except for a single envelope resting against the welcome mat. Thick paper, off-white, my name written in ink that felt intentional. Not rushed, not casual. My stomach tightened before my brain caught up. I picked it up slowly, like it might bite. No return address. Just my name, Emily Carter. I stood there longer than I should have, the cool air brushing against my ankles, that quiet feeling settling in my chest, the one that whispers, something's about to change. Inside, I leaned against the door and opened the envelope with my finger. No letter, just a folded document, legal paper. I didn't read the whole thing at first. I didn't need to. My eyes went straight to the bolded line near the top, the one that made my breath catch. Notice of asset transfer. My hands started shaking. I sat down at the small dining table, the chair scraping loudly against the floor in the too quiet house. The words blurred as I skimmed, my heart beating faster with every sentence I half understood. There was a number on the page, a number so big it didn't make sense. 7 digits. I laughed once, out loud, sharp and nervous. "No," I said to the empty room, "that's not real." But it was. The notice stated very clearly that a financial transfer had been initiated in my name. A transfer I did not request, a transfer I did not approve, a transfer tied to someone I trusted. My grandmother, Margaret Hale. My chest tightened, not with excitement, but dread. Margaret didn't make mistakes like this. She balanced her checkbook down to the penny. She labeled file folders. She corrected waiters politely when they got her order wrong. If her name was on this, then someone had moved something they weren't supposed to. I reached for my phone, paused, then set it back down. Some instincts don't come from training. They come from surviving family. I knew, deep down, that calling right away would tip someone off, and whoever sent this envelope, they wanted me to know, just not loudly. I folded the document back into the envelope and stared at the wall, my reflection faintly visible in the darkened window. 36 years old, divorced, quiet life, no enemies. So why did it feel like I just stepped into the middle of a lie that had been waiting for me? Outside, a car passed. Somewhere, a dog barked. Normal life kept moving, but mine had just split down the middle. And I hadn't even asked the question yet that scared me most. If this wasn't meant for me, then who was it really for?
I sat there a long time after the door closed. Long enough for the coffee in my mug to go cold. Long enough for my phone to buzz twice with messages I ignored. Long enough for denial to try and fail to convince me this was nothing. Finally, I picked up my phone. I didn't call my grandmother right away. That mattered, because when something feels off, you don't run straight into the fire. You walk the edges first. You listen. You let people show their hands. Instead, I opened my banking app. One account, then another. Everything looked normal, boring even, until I logged into the old joint account, the one Grandma Margaret helped me open years ago when I first moved out on my own, back when she slipped 20s into birthday cards and told me to never rely on a man to balance your books. The screen loaded, and my breath left my body. There it was, a A transaction dated 9 days ago. Incoming transfer. The amount matched the document. Every digit. I stared at it, my fingers numb, my thoughts running into each other like cars in fog. I scrolled. 1 day later, outgoing transfer. Nearly all of it. Whoever did it left just enough behind to make the account look alive, not empty, not suspicious. Careful. Too careful. My mouth went dry. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't confusion. This was choreography. I grabbed my keys without really deciding to and drove to the bank branch down the street. I didn't want customer service voices and hold music. I wanted a human face. Inside, the air smelled like printer toner and fake lemon cleaner. A young teller smiled at me like it was just another Tuesday. "I need to ask about a wire transfer," I said. She nodded, professional, typed, paused. Then her expression shifted just slightly. "That transaction was authorized in person," she said. My stomach dropped. "In person?" I repeated. "That's not possible. I wasn't in the state." She hesitated. "It was completed under an authorization document." "What document?" She lowered her voice. "A power of attorney." The words felt heavy, like they shouldn't fit in the room. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't panic. I just asked, "Who filed it?" She checked again, and then she said a name that rearranged my entire childhood in one breath. My mother. I thanked the teller, walked out calmly, didn't scream until I was in my car. Not because of the money, because of the audacity, because of the way the pieces suddenly clicked into place. Missed calls, rushed conversations, my mom suddenly insisting on helping Grandma with paperwork. I drove home in silence, didn't turn on the radio, didn't answer my phone when it buzzed again. I pulled into my driveway and just sat there, hands on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead. If my mother filed a power of attorney, if my grandmother didn't understand what she signed, if that money moved through my account, then this wasn't just theft, it was a setup. And the timing? Christmas was in 3 days. Family dinner. Everyone under one roof. I looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror. Same face, different woman. Because now I wasn't just a granddaughter coming home for the holidays. I was walking straight into a room full of people who thought I didn't know. And I was going to let them keep thinking that just a little longer. The house looked the same. That's what got me. Same white siding, same wreath on the door, same wind chimes tapping softly like they always had. From the outside, it was still the place where scraped knees got kissed and secrets felt safe. I parked at the curb and sat there for a second, watching the front window. Lights on, shadows moving. Everyone was already inside. I grabbed my overnight bag and stepped out of the car. The cold air hit my face, sharp and grounding. I needed that. Needed something real before walking into whatever version of reality they'd rehearsed without me. The door opened before I knocked. My mom. She smiled too fast. "Emily, you made it," she said, pulling me into a hug that felt more like a grip than affection. Her perfume was stronger than usual, like she'd sprayed it to armor herself. "Wouldn't miss Christmas," I said. Behind her, the house buzzed with movement, dishes clinking, someone laughing a little too loud, my brother pacing with his phone pressed to his ear. Everyone looked busy, distracted. Good. My grandmother sat in her usual chair near the window, wrapped in a soft blue cardigan. She looked smaller than I remembered, fragile but alert. Her eyes found mine immediately. There it was, recognition, relief. "Emily," she said warmly. I crossed the room and knelt beside her, taking her hands in mine. They were cool, but steady. "You okay, Grandma?" I asked quietly. She squeezed my fingers. "I am now." That was all she said. That told me everything. Dinner came together like a stage play. Everyone had a role. My mom floated between rooms, overmanaging. My brother cracked jokes that landed half a beat too late. His fiancée avoided eye contact, glued to her phone like it might rescue her. And Grandma watched. She didn't say much, just observed. At the table, candles flickered, reflecting off glasses and polished silverware. It looked perfect, almost cinematic. That's how lies like to dress. Halfway through the meal, I stood up with my glass. "I just want to say something," I said. The room quieted. I smiled at my grandmother. "Thank you for dinner, and for the gift. The check was generous. You didn't have to." The fork froze midair. Grandma didn't blink. "What check?" she asked calmly. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was loaded. My mom laughed, too sharp. "Oh, Mom, you know, the little envelope." Grandma turned her head slowly, looked at me. Then she said it. "I wired you the money." My heart thudded. "I wired you all of it." My brother choked on his drink. My mom's smile cracked. Her hand tightened around her wine glass like it might shatter. I sat back down slowly. "How much?" I asked gently. "1 million, Grandma said, clear, certain. No confusion, no fog, just truth. The room felt colder. My mother started talking fast. Doctor visits, medications, misunderstandings, words stacked on top of each other like bricks meant to block something in. Grandma didn't look at her. She looked at me. They moved it, didn't they? I reached into my pocket, pulled out the check, held it up. "Grandma," I said softly, "you didn't sign this." Her eyes narrowed. She took the check, studied the signature, and then closed her eyes for a moment. "No, I didn't," she said quietly. That's when I felt it shift. Not just tension, power. Because now everyone knew. The lie had been exposed, and no one at that table knew what I knew yet. But they were about to. Nobody spoke, not right away. It was the kind of silence that presses on your ears, that makes you aware of your own breathing. I could hear the clock ticking in the hallway. I could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator. I could hear my own pulse, steady and loud, like it was counting down. My mother was the first to move. She set her wine glass down carefully, too carefully, like she was afraid any sudden motion might break something that couldn't be fixed. "This is ridiculous," she said, forcing a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "Mom, you're tired. Emily, you're reading too much into this. Let's not ruin dinner." Grandma didn't look at her. She was still staring at the check. "You forged my name," Grandma said. Not angry, not shaking, just stating a fact. My brother shifted in his chair. "Grandma, nobody forged anything. Maybe the bank made a mistake. You know how signatures can look different." "Stop," Grandma said. One word, firm. He stopped. I hadn't said anything yet. That was intentional. People talk more when they think you're quiet. "Emily," my mom said, turning to me now, her voice softer, almost pleading, "you don't really believe someone here would steal from your grandmother, do you?" I met her eyes, held them. "I believe someone already did," I said. Her jaw tightened. Grandma placed the check on the table, right in the center, like evidence in a courtroom. "I gave that envelope to you yesterday," she said to my mother. "I told you not to open it." My mother swallowed. "I didn't." "You did," Grandma replied, "and you put something else inside." The air felt thick, like it was hard to breathe. My brother's fiancée stood up abruptly. "I need some air," she said, already moving toward the back door. "Nobody's leaving," I said. Not loud, but it landed. She froze. Everyone turned to look at me then, really look at me. Not the daughter, not the sister, something else. I reached into my pocket again and placed my phone on the table. "I went to the bank," I said. "The money was wired, then it was moved the next day." My brother shook his head. "Emily, come on." "It was done under a power of attorney, filed 9 days ago." Grandma inhaled sharply. My mother's face went pale. "Mom," I said, keeping my voice calm, "do you want to explain why your name is on that document?" She stood up so fast, her chair scraped loudly across the floor. "You have no idea what you're talking about," she snapped. "She needed help. I was making reckless decisions. I was protecting her." "By draining her account?" I asked. The word draining seemed to hit everyone at once. Grandma pushed herself up from her chair, slow but steady. "You told me it was insurance paperwork. You rushed me. You said the notary was waiting." My mother opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. "You were confused." "I was not," Grandma said. I leaned forward. "The transfer didn't go to savings. It didn't go to a trust." I paused. "It went to someone else's account." Every head turned. My brother's fiance's hand started shaking. My brother whispered, "Oh, God." I looked straight at her. "Do you want to tell them, or should I?" Her eyes filled with tears. That's when I knew we were just getting started. She didn't sit back down. My brother's fiancée, Lena, stood there near the back door, arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to hold her insides together. Her mouth opened once, then closed. No sound came out. The truth has a weight to it. You can see when it lands. "Lena," my brother said softly, too softly, "what is she talking about?" Lena shook her head hard, fast. "I didn't take anything," she said. "I swear I didn't." "I didn't say you did," I replied. "Not yet." I turned my phone so everyone could see the screen. I didn't shove it in anyone's face. I just let it sit there, glowing quietly, like it knew it had time. The money was moved into an account opened 3 days before the transfer, I said. New, clean, no history. My mom swallowed, loud. "That account," I continued, "is in Lena's name." The room reacted all at once. My brother stood up. "What? No, that's not possible." Lena started crying then, not dramatic sobs, quiet, shaking tears. "I didn't know what it was," she said. "She said it was temporary. She said it was just to hold it." My mother spun toward her. "Stop talking." That did it. Grandma turned to my mother slowly, her voice low and dangerous in a way I'd never heard before. "You told her to lie for you." "I was fixing a mistake," my mom said. "You were giving everything away." "I was giving it to my granddaughter," Grandma snapped, "not to you." Lena sank back into her chair. "She said it was for taxes," she whispered. "She said if it stayed in Emily's account, it would raise flags. She said this was smarter." My brother looked like he was going to be sick. I nodded. "And after it landed in Lena's account," I said, "it moved again." My mom's eyes widened, just a fraction. "To a company," I went on, "one that didn't exist a month ago." Silence. Then Grandma spoke. "What company?" I took a breath. This part hurt more. "It's a holding company," I said. "On paper, it invests in property." My mom's voice came out sharp. "You went digging." "Yes," I said simply. "And that company," I continued, "is controlled by you." My brother dropped back into his chair. Lena covered her mouth with both hands. Grandma closed her eyes. My mother laughed then, a broken sound. So what? I was securing it, turning it into something tangible, something safe. A house, I said. Her head snapped up. On the coast, I added. Closing tomorrow. That's when my stepfather finally spoke. You told me it was an inheritance, he said quietly. You told me it was already yours. My mom turned to him. I didn't think she'd notice. The words hung there, heavy, final. Grandma opened her eyes and looked straight at me. Can you stop it? Yes, I said. How? I met her gaze. But it won't be gentle. She nodded once, then don't be. Outside, the wind rattled the windows. Inside, my family fell apart in slow motion. And tomorrow morning, someone was going to wake up without the life they thought they'd stolen.
Nobody slept. Not really. The house went quiet in that eerie after-the-storm way. No arguing, no shouting, just the sound of people avoiding each other. Doors closed softly. Footsteps stopped mid-hallway. Someone cried behind a bathroom door and tried to hide it by running the faucet. I stayed awake in my old bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed, laptop open, phone charging beside me like a lifeline. This wasn't emotional anymore. It was operational. At 11:43 p.m., I made the first call. The title company. I didn't accuse, I didn't explain the family drama. I used the tone that makes people listen, the calm, professional voice that says, "This will end badly if you ignore me." There's a dispute regarding the source of funds for the property scheduled to close tomorrow, I said. The seller needs to be notified immediately. Any attempt to proceed could expose your firm to liability. There was a pause, then keys clicking, then we'll freeze the transaction pending review. Good. At 12:18 p.m., I emailed the bank's fraud department with documentation attached, wire receipts, account screenshots, timestamps. I CC'd the branch manager and used words like unauthorized, elder abuse, and coerced signature. Those words move fast. At 1:02 a.m., I sat with my grandmother in her room. She was awake, sitting upright, robe pulled tight around her shoulders. She looked tired, but not weak. She never thought it would be her, she said quietly. I sat beside her. You trusted her. That's what mothers do, she replied, even when we shouldn't. She reached for my hand. If this goes public, I don't want vengeance. I want the truth. I nodded. You'll get it. Down the hall, I heard a door creak. Soft footsteps. My mother. She stood in the doorway, eyes red, face bare of makeup for the first time in years. She looked smaller without her armor. You always were like your grandmother, watching, waiting. I didn't respond. You think this makes you righteous, destroying your own family? I met her gaze. You did that when you forged her name. She flinched. It was just supposed to be temporary, she whispered. I was going to fix it. I stood up. You don't get to steal someone's life savings and call it fixing. She nodded slowly, like she already knew she'd lost. By morning, the house felt hollow. At 8:17 p.m., my phone buzzed. The bank had flagged the transfer. At 8:41 a.m., the title company confirmed the closing was canceled. At 9:03 a.m., my mother's lawyer left a voicemail. I didn't listen to it. Grandma and I sat at the kitchen table drinking tea, sunlight spilling across the floor like it didn't care what had happened here. Thank you, she said. For what? For seeing me when everyone else thought I was already gone. I squeezed her hand. Outside, a car engine started. Someone was leaving, and nothing would ever be the same again. By mid-morning, the house felt like a crime scene after the tape comes down. Not loud, Not dramatic, just empty. My brother had taken Lena to her sister's place before sunrise. No goodbye, no explanation, just the sound of tires on gravel and a door closing for good. My stepfather left shortly after, saying he needed space, which felt like another way of saying, I don't know who my wife is anymore. My mother stayed. That surprised me. She sat alone at the dining table, still in yesterday's clothes, staring at nothing. The same table where she'd laughed too loudly, poured too much wine, tried to drug the truth into silence. I poured coffee, set a mug in front of her. She didn't touch it. I got a call, she said quietly, from the bank. I nodded. They called me too. They're investigating, she added, like it was new information. They should. She looked up then, eyes glossy but sharp. You really would let them arrest me? I didn't answer right away. Instead, I said, Did you think I wouldn't? That hurt her more than yelling ever could. Grandma didn't come downstairs. She stayed in her room, resting, processing. That mattered. This wasn't about humiliating anyone. It was about stopping the bleeding. At noon, a uniformed officer knocked. Polite, calm, clipboard tucked under his arm. I answered the door. He asked for my grandmother. She came down slowly, dignified, wearing a pressed blouse and pearl earrings like she was attending church instead of confronting her daughter. I'd like my attorney present, she said. The officer nodded, respectful. Of course, ma'am. My mother started crying then, not loud, not performative, just the sound of something finally collapsing under its own weight. I never meant to hurt you, she said to Grandma. Grandma looked at her for a long moment. You didn't mean not to, she replied. That was worse. By evening, paperwork replaced shouting, statements replaced accusations. The money, what was left of it, was frozen. The shell company was flagged. The house on the coast slipped back into the ocean of almosts. I packed my bag. I wasn't staying. As I zipped it closed, Grandma stood in the doorway. You'll come back? She asked. Always, I said. She smiled, tired, proud. You were right, she said. The truth really does live in the quiet. Outside, the sky was turning pink and gold. The world kept spinning like nothing had happened. But inside that house, a family story had ended, and a new one, harder, cleaner, more honest, had just begun. The drive back felt longer than the flight in, not because of traffic or weather, but because silence stretches when you finally let it in. I didn't turn on music, didn't call anyone. I let the road do what roads do best, give you space to think without asking questions. By the time I crossed the state line, the adrenaline had burned off. What replaced it wasn't relief, it was grief. Grief doesn't always look like tears. Sometimes it looks like staring at a gas station coffee cup and realizing you don't recognize the person who raised you anymore. My phone buzzed twice, once from my brother, once from a number I didn't have saved. I ignored both. At home, my apartment felt unfamiliar, like I'd left one life and come back to another wearing the same skin. I dropped my bag by the door, kicked off my shoes, and stood there for a while, listening to the quiet. That's when the shaking started. Not dramatic, just hands trembling enough to remind me that I'm human, not a machine built for damage control. I sat on the floor, back against the couch, and let it pass. The next morning, the messages came. My brother first. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I should have asked more questions. I'm sorry. I believed him. That didn't fix anything. Then the unknown number. It was my mother's lawyer. I listened to the voicemail once, then deleted it. Some conversations don't deserve oxygen. A week later, Grandma called. Her voice sounded steadier, stronger. They returned most of it. Not all, but enough. I closed my eyes. I'm sorry. She laughed softly. For what? For being my granddaughter? Then she got serious. I'm rewriting everything. Will, accounts, all of it. I didn't argue. She paused. I won't ask you to choose sides. I already did, I replied. Another pause. I know, she said. That's why I trust you. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with the lights off, city glow bleeding in through the window. I thought about how easy it is to confuse love with loyalty, how often families hide behind tradition when what they really mean is silence. I thought about my mother, about the girl she must have been once, about where things went wrong, and about the line she crossed anyway. Some things don't get undone, but they do get faced. I poured myself a glass of water, not wine, not tonight. I raised it toward the window, not in celebration, but acknowledgement. To the truth, to the cost of it, and to the quiet strength it takes to choose it anyway. Because the hardest part wasn't exposing the lie, it was learning how to live after it. Time didn't fix everything, but it softened the edges. Months passed, seasons changed, life filled the spaces where chaos had been. The world didn't stop for our family fracture, it never does, but it slowed enough for the truth to settle where it belonged. Grandma moved into a smaller place, not because she had to, because she wanted to. Somewhere bright, somewhere calm, somewhere no one touched her mail without asking. I visited when I could. We drank tea in the afternoons, talked about nothing important, watched birds argue over crumbs on the balcony railing. She never brought up the money unless I did. She didn't need to. The trust was rebuilt in quieter ways. My brother and I spoke occasionally, carefully, like people learning a new language they'd never wanted to study. He never defended our mother again. That mattered. As for my mother, she wrote letters. Long ones. I didn't open them. Some truths don't require a response. One evening, almost a year later, I sat alone on my couch as rain tapped gently against the window. I thought about how close I'd come to ignoring that envelope, how easy it would have been to assume someone else would handle it, how silence almost won. But silence can be broken, and sometimes it needs to be. I stood up and turned off the lights, letting the dark wrap around the room. It felt peaceful, honest, the kind of quiet that doesn't hide anything. Before bed, my phone buzzed. A message from Grandma. Proud of you. Always was. I smiled. Not wide, not dramatic, just enough. Because some endings don't need closure, they need acceptance. And some stories don't end with forgiveness, they end with clarity. And that was enough. Thank you for sitting with this story. If it touched something quiet inside you, please like and subscribe for more calm, honest storytelling. And tell me in the comments, would you have stayed silent or spoken up?